Hey guys, you are listening to Insights with Kathleen,
Please join us while we share our insights and experiences
with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself.
for the answers you already have.
As with all information we receive,
Take what speaks to you
and leave the rest.
Welcome back, everyone.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, Sherry,
Hey, Kathleen.
what's different?
The table.
Something's different.
You're
The
right.
table.
You're right. Something is different. What is it?
I don't know.
Hey, everyone. We have Delaney here with us today.
Got a special guest.
We do have a
special
Delaney.
guest.
Hi. We got a special, our first guest, which makes it extra special.
Yes, so
Yeah.
Delaney is one of our faithful listeners, and she reached out and she said, hey, I want to join the conversation. So she's here to join the
Yeah.
conversation.
Spice things up a little bit.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for spicing things up for us. We
So-
appreciate it.
So
Yeah.
Delaney, tell me if you don't mind sharing the story,
Yeah.
because I loved hearing the story, and
you
I think
love stories?
I think our listeners would love to hear your
Oh,
story
okay.
about when you do listen to our podcast and what
Oh.
inspired you to say, hey, can I come on there?
So I have a lovely problem with the podcast. I love it so much. It's a personal problem. It's not anything. The podcast is amazing, but I love to listen to podcasts in the car. But this is a very hard podcast for me to listen in the car because I'm a friend of the show, so I talk to you guys a lot. I will pause the podcast because I'll get a brain thought and I'll start talking to myself in the car, almost like a crazy person. And then when I'm done my brain thought, I'll resume the podcast and I don't remember where we left off. So I can only get like 20 minutes into an episode maybe, and then I completely lose my train of thought. And then later on I move on to the next episode and I do it with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love the words brain thought, and I love that you like talk with us as the podcast is going. No, you pause it and
I
then
pause
say
it,
then you
and
talk.
I'm like, no. You need to hear what I need to say.
Why
Well, I'm
we brought
glad
you
that we
on?
can inspire the conversation with yourself,
You're welcome.
because really that's
Yeah.
really what I think one of our goals are for this podcast.
Yeah.
Is to inspire our listeners to have those
Yeah.
conversations with themselves, to really think about that and
Mhm.
see how does that really apply in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so Sherry,
Yeah.
what are
Don't
we
pick me.
talking about today?
Well, I guess what I wanted to talk to you guys about a little bit today is it's that time of year, it's summer, but now it's ending and I'm going into the fall semester.
Gotta go back.
Exactly.
To
I gotta go
school
back to
again.
school. And like, I'm excited, yes,
Yeah.
but I'm also anxious because I know there's good things in store for me in the future, but I'm also like, how am I going to get there? Like, what do I need to do? And I'm like overthinking it a lot as I'm
Yeah.
like moving back. So any thoughts, tips for this college student?
breathe.
ASMR.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're definitely describing anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? And that's about really being too far into the future and too much into the future.
Right.
And one thing you can do is kind of like chunk it down, bring yourself back to the current moment,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And one little step at a time. One little step. It's like that little mouse trying to move this really big pile of stuff instead of trying to push the whole pile or move the whole pile because the ant can't.
Right.
It takes one little piece at a time, and eventually that pile moves.
Mm-hmm.
But it's being in the moment with that little piece,
Right.
right? So it's for those who are going back to school, so maybe it's about just starting with the list.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's about just checking off one item at a time on that list.
Right.
Taking it day by day.
Moment by moment.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah. And it's not to say that we can't have goals,
Yeah.
right? We can have the 5-year plan. We can have the 10-year plan. Those are
Yeah.
just meant to be broad sketches,
Right.
but it's not meant for us to carry the whole pile
Yeah.
in this moment.
I see what you're saying. So say if, I'm like promoting something or, I just have some objectives I want to get done for school and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to, so I guess I'm not doing an outline. I'm just like, I have to either do it or not do it. It's like an all or nothing for me sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that kind of. Like you don't do when you have an assignment at school, you don't do it. Like even if you do it the night before, you don't do it like all at once. You do it,
Right.
like,
You're
in bits.
chunking it,
You
which
chunk
makes it
it.
a lot easier and attainable, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe look at it this way, because I know we can get really excited for something that's coming up.
Right.
Like I remember as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
this is like way long ago when Disney World just opened up. This is really going to tell you how old. Right? Wait, I already told you how old because we celebrated my birthday last one.
Yeah, your 25th birthday. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, happy 25th, by the way.
Hey, I'm proud of how old I am.
Mm-hmm.
I lasted this long.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It's good.
great.
Anyway, so when we were younger and Disney World just opened up,
Mm-hmm.
my mom made us all these different jars. Like each kid had a jar, and my dad would come home during, like, I guess whenever payday was, and it's usually just once a month, and he would like pile all these coins into our jars. And the idea is that we were saving up for our spending money for Disney, and so we would be encouraged to also go out and do other things to bring in a few extra change, you know, to put in those jars. That level of anticipation, right? Like, now I know it doesn't equate the same because it doesn't really invoke that level of anxiety as much as it does, you know, anticipation and excitement.
Right.
But the idea is that there's these things that need to happen before you go on the trip,
Right. Of
right?
course.
Which could bring anxiety if you're somebody who's like, well, it's just too much to put together.
would
I
do
don't
that.
know where to
I think-
start.
I think both things are kind of ideas of like building things up in your mind, whether it could be like and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. Like you're
Yes.
excited to do something, you got a trip, or you have another big life event coming up, and then you have just just building things up, but then that seems too big for you to manage.
Right.
It seems not manageable.
Or even just building them up in your head, even if it ends up being built up in your head in a good way.
Right.
You set yourself up for an expectation
Yeah.
that if that is not met,
Mm-hmm.
then you end up with a level of suffering because now you're disappointed. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at how we can bring all of that back around, huh?
I know.
But so
Yeah.
so like the trip, using the trip analogy,
Right.
what we could do is we know that this is the finite date for when the trip is going to happen, and then this is where we are today,
Yeah.
and that list is helpful
Mm-hmm.
of like, what is it that I need to get to this trip? What is it that I
Yeah.
need to take this trip?
Right.
Right. And then you write it all down and you back it up to present day. It's like, okay, what can I check off now?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do? And you're closing the gap and you're closing the gap. And this
Yeah.
works for your career.
Mm.
This works for getting ready for school.
Yeah.
This works with helping to kind of manage the mind stories that happen in our heads, right? That could drive us then to anxiety, drive us then to, you know, overthinking and feeling like, I can't get there. It's exciting, but I can't get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
No, thank you. That makes a lot of sense because you guys were both saying it earlier, like with the Disney World versus like school, but I could see a lot of similarities in that sense because that happens to me too, where it's like even if it's something bad or something good or something indifferent, it really doesn't matter. It's just kind of me building up and having anxiety of like, oh, well, how am I going to spend my money, or what experience am I going to have at school, or how should I be planning my career, and just like changing the narrative a bit helps.
Yes, but think about that, right? How does that feel? That feels choppy. That feels like I can only, and so concise, and I can only be this way.
Yes.
Opposed to being like the surfer dude, man. You're just kind of letting it happen. We're just riding a wave. We're just gonna see where's that gonna take us. You know, it's cool, chillax. We're just gonna float on in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it feels more smooth when you take more of that attitude, right? It doesn't mean you can't still have the outline. The outline's always welcome because the outline is you setting your intentions.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, that's always a good.
That's a good
That's
one.
always a good thing.
Yes. So having an intention, what you intend to happen, that's kind of like part of the secret recipe.
Oh, you got a recipe.
a
Share it with the
recipe?
class.
So we talk about alchemy, right? So out there in the different media platforms and formats, you know, we see a lot of movies. We see people who are getting more and more interested in, you know, magic or into tarot or into crystals or like whatever that is, right?
Right.
Into the dark arts, if you want to label it that way. I mean, like, look at Harry Potter and how that took the world by surprise, right?
Yeah.
Or Storm, or like even when you look at Game of Thrones or any of those other fantasy type
Right.
Yeah, the
things.
little fantasy worlds.
Yeah, so alchemy is actually a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes 3 parts.
Wait, what is alchemy again?
Have you ever heard of them taking lead and turning it to gold?
Sure.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's what most people know alchemy to be. It's kind of
Right.
like this level of science,
Mm.
if you will, of how things work. And let's see if I can articulate this intelligently. So
Yeah.
with alchemy, you need an intention,
Mm-hmm.
you need a vessel,
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
right? And then there's a third component, and I don't know why it's escaping me right now. So, so there's these 3
Okay, there's
components. I
3
apologize.
things.
Three
There's
things.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm not perfect. So there's
All
3
good things come in 3s.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
So you need the vessel, you need your intention, and then you need that piece, right? So we could be the vessel,
Right.
and then we set the intention,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like that spark, that energy, that other piece, that other chemical, that other part of the reaction. And I apologize. I promise to come back and really speak more intelligently about this. There's just some things I just know, and then to put it into words, it's kind of a little hard.
Yeah, it's hard to go from the head to the heart to the mouth and get it all out.
Thank you, Delaney.
Mm-hmm.
She's
This is
good.
why
She's
you're
good.
here.
I like her.
This
Can we
is why
keep her
I'm
here?
Thank you. Oh, happy to be here.
Love.
But intentions
Mhm.
are it is the magical piece there.
Mhm.
That if we're just going through life just to go through life with no real intent,
Right.
with no real vision, that's another way we could say it, then we just kind of just going wherever the wind is blowing us, and then it could feel haphazard and feel like we're just not getting anywhere.
Right.
Mhm.
But if you have an intention that I intend to do this,
Yeah.
an intention doesn't lock you totally in, but it is something that kind of gives you a direction
Yeah.
and a way to go.
Right.
And it's okay to be too, like that you were talking about at college, that you're like, oh, you don't have the 5-year plan and what do you want to do with your career.
Right.
Like it's good too to not be like, you need to have a plan, and you're in college, which means you do have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't be like, I'm going to go to work and going to put my nose to the grindstone, and then in 20 years I'm going to be the vice president of Disney. Like you can't have like anything too specific
Right.
as
Right.
your goal otherwise.
Nicely said.
Yeah.
Nicely said. Otherwise, you limit the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like what
Yeah.
both of you are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it because I usually get like hyper specific, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't do it exactly this way, this outcome will happen, and I'll be a failure, or something bad will happen, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. Because I was having that too when I graduated college, because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career path. And now I'm working in the library, and I love that. So that's kind of like a fun little. It wasn't what I went to college for to do, but I
Right.
do love it. And I think that's a good part of my journey that I've had.
Oh, I love that. You're right. Like not limiting the universe, and you realize something you also still really like, which is great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that still aligns with what you want to do.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there are, for all of those college students out there who are going to school or who just graduated, yeah, you may have picked a particular major and you got through college and you got that degree, but maybe when you're done, that major is not resonating with you anymore.
Oh,
But nothing is wasted.
that's
No.
Nothing
you're
is ever
right.
wasted. And speaking from experience from being out in the corporate world,
Right.
they'll take any degree. It's just, it's
Yeah.
about your experiences.
Right.
Because
a-
that degree shows you're dedicated.
Well, it doesn't just show that you're dedicated, but it shows that you have an ability. You can write. You can do different things that they're looking for, right? So
Right.
that you can put together cohesive sentences that, like, sometimes I really can't, but that you can write. That maybe
Yeah.
there's a level of cooperation, because when you're in college, you have to cooperate on
Right.
certain
Yeah.
projects at certain classes.
For sure.
That you also, part of being in college is public speaking. So, hey, you can do presentations. And those things are important to corporations.
Right.
And so it doesn't really matter that you had a specific place to study. The only time that really matters is attorneys, doctors. Like, you have to pass
Like a trade,
specialized
trade
boards.
specialized.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the only time that really would matter.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you have a music degree or an art degree or a teacher's degree or any of those. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go into that field.
Yeah.
Maybe, you had a job that kind of paid the bills until you got through school, and you kind of liked aspects of that. Or maybe you got, involved with a different company somewhere and you're like, wow, I really like what that company's doing. I want to do more of that. And your degree still becomes valuable because it helps you with promotions within that company.
Right.
So putting out your intention to say, hey, I intend to live the best life I ever can. And I intend to be so abundant that all my bills will be paid. I'll have more than enough food to eat.
Right.
That I'll have more than enough money to take care of all my personal needs and an extra to save, with savings.
Right.
And a little extra on top of that.
Yeah.
Right? So if you put that order out there, that intention out there, then the universe is going to deliver, and the universe will have room to deliver even more. And then as you start to receive in parts, even the tiniest little part of that intention, we show gratitude and we give thanks and we tell the universe, I am so grateful for this. It could be 2 cents. Like maybe you want $100,000 and you could be getting just 2 cents you found on the street, and you pick it up and you go, thank you so much. This is so exciting. This is the beginning. So then the universe is like, oh, look.
It is
She
so
likes
true.
to get that money.
It's so true. It happens to me so much because you would say it and I'm like, yeah, but like you're Kathleen, all right, whatever. But like I would see like small things coming in for me, like, oh, I got $5 or whatever, and I'm just like, what, I'm happy I got this, and just more would come through from different areas, and I'm like, I forgot I was gonna get paid for this or something like that. So like, you're right, doing that it helps, and it's a shift in energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we know that and we've seen that and
Right.
we've experienced that, then we would hope that our brains could translate that to say, oh, so my future worries, I don't need to worry about it because I'm putting an intention out there and I'm moving in joy. I'm moving in gratitude, taking a step towards, and I'm not going to worry about the rest.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going to just have fun.
No, I do.
That's the best.
I love that you guys were talking about the degree because I didn't know that was bothering me as much as it did until you set it up like, hey, you go to college and whatever. And I always thought, oh, I have to get like
You have to get this degree.
I have to get this degree. And then I have to go into whatever, I majored in, or else it's like useless or something. So it was a lot of pressure because I was applying for internships or opportunities and I wasn't getting it. And I'm like, I just feel frustrated. So, I would get upset, but just having that free reign to be like, okay, do what resonates with you. It's like more freeing and a weight lifted off a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Of course, of course.
Oh, Delaney,
Yeah.
do you have any words for our audience before we close up for today?
Oh, I was not prepared for such a
I put her on the spot.
She
But it's
loves
But
to.
it's okay to not be prepared for life. Sometimes life is an adventure, and that's an important thing to remember, is that you're on an adventure.
Amen to that. And just stay in flow and have fun, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, thank you for joining us, Delaney. Thank you so much for being
Oh, you're
here and
welcome.
part
Thank
of the
you for
conversation.
having me. This has been a
Excellent.
great
Welcome.
conversation.
You're very welcome. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to chatting it up next week. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Remember, you are bigger than anything that you are going through or anything that is happening around you.